Company C had cleared the route into the bridge site and equipment was arriving. And at 9 a.m. on the morning of July the 28th, Company A commenced construction of a 110-foot Bailey Bridge. Because of heavy traffic, a second 84-foot treadway bridge was immediately constructed adjacent to the Bailey. By mid-afternoon, the 82nd had completed its first bridging mission with only one casualty, and the 29th Division was rolling south to exploit the breakout. Today, St. Lo has rebuilt and restored its buildings. Most of the structures have been constructed since the war, but once in a while, one can find an original. Many residents of St. Lo were killed by the Nazis, most of them after the Allied landing. The people of St. Lo have made sure that the suffering and sacrifice of the American troops and their own people will not be forgotten. There are many reminders of that summer of 1944. With the St. Lo mission completed, the 82nd moved a few miles south into bivouac at Les Jardins and was placed in close support of the 30th Division, but only for a few days. By August the 1st, the 82nd was once again in support of the 29th Division and moved to Chevry, just north of the city of Vire. Company C constructed a 40-foot Bailey Bridge across the Drôme River on the 29th Division supply route just north of the village of Chevry. On August the 2nd, the nearby town of Moyen was cleared of destroyed German tanks, and vehicles and supply routes opened through the town, which was clogged. Water points were set in operation for both division and corps. Then at 2300 hours on the night of August the 4th, the 82nd was given its toughest assignment to date, clearing mines, debris, and opening the routes through the city of Vire, which was still in German control. Up to this point, the push was to the south, inland away from the beach. Vire was to be the pivot where the First Army would begin a swing eastward toward the Seine River and the German border. Vire was also of great strategic importance since main roads passed through the city in all directions. The city of Vire sits on high ground, a site selected centuries ago because of its inaccessibility. From the northwest and the west, there were only two entrances to the city, and both over the Vire River. The Martilly Bridge was located northwest of the city, and the Bow Bridge a few kilometers south. Between these two bridges, there was steep hillside with numerous rock outcroppings. The plan of attack would send the 2nd Armored Division down Highway D-296 from the village of Campanolis. The 29th on the 2nd's right flank would send one column of the 29th northeastward along the Route 185A. Both of these roads converged in the suburb of Martilly, where a bridge across the Vire River was still intact. The rest of the 29th would attack further south through open fields at St. Martin di Televende. The next morning, August the 5th, Combat Command A of the 2nd Armored Division moved into a field at Martilly Place. As the column of 19 tanks moved out towards the bridge, intense fire from German guns on the high ground damaged or destroyed 14 tanks. What was left of the column withdrew. A second column also tried to climb a hill south of Martilly, but they too were stopped by heavy fire. At the same time, units from the 116th Infantry were moving into Martilly up Highway 185. By day's end, and with heavy artillery support, the infantry overran the German gun positions on Hill 219 that had stopped the armor earlier in the day. On that same day, less than a mile away, the 82nd was sweeping and clearing the road ahead of another armored column. A dozer making road repairs received a direct hit, killing T5 James Teague and Private Sam Holland, and wounding Master Sergeant Preston Stewart and T5 James Hayes. Early the next day, August the 6th, the 2nd Armored was relieved, and the lead role to take the city assigned to the 29th Division Infantry. All units of the 82nd were immediately reassigned to support the 29th. At 7:15 p.m. that same day, units of the 116th Regiment began their assault on the city up the steep terrain, using the rocks for cover as they proceeded. 2 82nd Recon parties then entered the city under the cover of darkness. The next morning, August the 7th, A and B companies were ordered into the city. B Company was to enter the city over the Martilly Bridge. At 4 a.m., B Company arrived at the point shown on the map, and the 1st and 2nd platoons proceeded with mine detectors and hand tools up the road shown in red. As the 1st platoon started to cross the Martilly Bridge, machine gun fire came in from both sides of the bridge. Throwing themselves flat, the men crawled back to the safety of the building. Captain Spurrier decided to withdraw and call for artillery. As the unit rounded a curve going back down the hill, they again came under machine gun fire. Captain Spurrier was hit as he tumbled from his jeep. Within minutes, mortars and artillery began to rain in. Lieutenant White's 3rd Platoon, in reserve at the bottom of the hill, located and knocked out the guns with a well-placed bazooka shot.
Next morning, we were up on the top of the hill there, and we were zeroed in with the mortars and the machine gun, and one of the lieutenants got shot. Lieutenant Spurrier, I think it was, got shot, and then the lieutenant in charge of us asked for 2 volunteers to help get him out. So Israel Cops and myself went over and got him out and got him back to safety, and I never heard from him anymore.
What happened?
Well, he was wounded, but I don't know whether he ever died or whatever happened. Never heard any more about him. Oh, yeah. And I didn't really realize that it was supposed to be a hero gesture, so me and Cops got a Bronze Star, and the lieutenant got a Silver Star for that.
Street, right to the end of that building, started across, and that's when the fire came across from both sides of the bridge.
This is the Martilly Bridge today. The bridge and the adjacent buildings have changed little over the years, as this old photo will show. By the afternoon of the 7th, the battalion, alternating companies, had worked throughout the night and day to clear mines and clean out the city. During the daylight hours, artillery and mortar fire pounded the troops, since the Germans still had high ground. Snipers fired at every target they could see. The 82nd's casualties began to mount. PFC Gerald Cordet and PFC Dunmire were both wounded by shell fire. Captain Schmieder was hit by sniper fire. By late in the day, the 29th Division had cleared the area around Martilly, and the 2nd Armored Division was now moving into the city, over the same bridge that had caused so much trouble just 24 hours earlier to support the 29th. The battalion was now taking prisoners by the dozens. Although at 5 p.m. the following day, August the 8th, the 29th Division Command declared the city liberated, the 82nd continued to take casualties. Mortar fire wounded Corporal John McGuire, T4 Homer Amel, Private James Yates, Private Bowen, and T5 James Hahn. and heavy artillery struck Corporal John Walker and Private William Waddens. By 1800 hours, on August the 9th, the battalion had opened all major routes through the city and turned its mission over to the 295th Combat Engineers and returned to bivouac to prepare for the next assignment. During the mission, the battalion had sustained 15 casualties, 2 killed and 13 wounded, and had taken 128 prisoners. The 82nd received numerous commendations from command units and would later receive the French Croix de Guerre for its mission at Vire. The battalion withdrew from Vire to bivouac for a few days' rest. Hot chow, a chance to look after personal grooming, and take stock of equipment needs. It had been a grueling 4 days. While here, Company C traveled back to Chevry to replace the previously constructed Bailey Bridge over the Drome River with a fixed timber bridge. Meanwhile, the German army in retreat was now concentrated in an area east of Vire. American troops were attacking north towards Argentan, while Canadian forces were moving south towards Falaise. It was in this gap that the bulk of the German army still in Normandy would be destroyed. On August the 15th, the 82nd was on the move again. Bivouac was established near Barrington, about 30 miles south of Vire. On that same day, Lieutenant William Shanley, his driver PFC Malcolm Goodale, and Sergeant Ditzel Leonard were wounded when their vehicle struck a mine while in reconnaissance near La Cotels.
On that particular morning, our battalion was ordered to advance about 35 miles, motor convoy, advanced 35 some miles. We didn't know how far we were going ahead at the time. But then I was told that as soon as we go into bivouac, I'm to go out and check 3 bridges to see if they're still standing or if they're mined and the conditions of the bridges. And I had checked the first 2 and they were in good order, but when I got to the 3rd one, it had a minefield in front of it, which we drove into.
I see. So that's how that happened.
That's how that happened, yeah. She might be related to the fact that I was